Hello, 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 and welcome to Believe. That's BLEAV in Lions, right here on the Believe Network. As always, I'm your host at Javanaugh87, Jack Kavanaugh. And as always, I am joined by the All Pro, the interception leader, the Detroit Lions center fielder, half fielder, quarter fielder, third fielder, whatever you needed him to do. Glover Quin had you covered.
Oh yeah. What's up, man?
Not too much, just digesting the schedule that was released and taking in some news around the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know, Schedule release time was always fun. It's always fun for you to see, your preseason opponents, which they've cut those games down considerably. And
Mm-hmm.
then seeing your schedule, seeing how you start the season off, who you got, where you get to go, or you kind of already know the cities that you're going to and the teams that are coming to you if you pay attention to that stuff. But it's kind of good to just see, your Thanksgiving Day games, your holiday schedules. I know when I used to get the schedule, the first thing I'm looking at is who do we open with, who do we close with, how many code games do we have? Well, potentially code games.
Yeah.
And what's the holiday schedule look like? That was, when's the bye week? Outside of that, that was about it for me.
Was there ever any seasons where you felt the NFL shafted you with the schedule, or was it usually you get some ups, you get some downs, you take your lumps?
I think that's normal. You get your ups, you get your downs, you take your lumps. I think, the people that get shafted in a sense of things are always the good teams for the most part.
Mm.
And you say you get shafted because you may go from, you know, a Monday night game, then you might come back to a Sunday night game, and then you may come back to, a Sunday game and then a Thursday game because they're trying to get you on national TV or they're trying to get you in different primetime spots, different things like that. You get to the end, the next thing you know, games get flexed. That's all good things. That's because you're probably playing well and, you've earned national TV games. I remember my first year in Detroit. I think, most of our games were, 1 o'clock games Eastern time, I
Mm.
think, we have the Thanksgiving game that, you always have that game. And then I think we had one Monday night game. I think we played the Giants late in the season on Monday night in 2013. No, we might have had two because I think Justin Tucker hit the 61-yard field goal on us uh one game, and then I I thought we played we didn't play the Giants late on Monday night. We just played the Giants and they beat us. It wasn't a Monday night game though. We opened up 2014 with the Monday night game against the Giants. It was a Monday night game against the Ravens, and then it was the Thanksgiving Day game. Those were the only two national TV games that we had. So then we come back in 2014 and we opened up with we had Coach Caldwell, we had a new coach. So we opened up with the Giants on Monday night, and that was a big time game. And we won that one. We had the Thanksgiving Day game. And we may have had another Thursday night game, or I don't remember many other national TV games that year, but we went like 10-6. We made the playoffs, had a big game against Green Bay at the last game of the season. So we come back the next year, I think we had like 5 Monday night games. I think we had
And
like five or six Monday night games. And you know, when you're playing well, they trying to put you on TV. Sometimes you get the short end of the stick, but that's what you want. I don't think I ever had a time where we were, three road games in a row, or what I'm saying, anything like that. So, um, for the most part, I will say when I was in Houston, matter of fact, uh, would have been, I guess, my last year in Houston. We played Jacksonville on a Sunday, and then we traveled to Detroit for Thanksgiving on a Thursday. that was probably the toughest. That was probably one of the toughest things because you get that Sunday game, but to get there for that Thursday game, you're leaving Wednesday, so you really get Monday to try to recover. Tuesday walk through, and you're back on the plane headed to the next game. And we had happened to we went into overtime with the Jacksonville Jaguars on that Sunday and won at the end of the game. Andre Johnson caught a pass and took it probably about 30, 40 yards to win. And then we go to Detroit, and that Thanksgiving Day game, we go to overtime again. That was the Justin Forsett, Jim Swartz challenge flag game on the down, not down, touchdown run. And we actually ended up coming back, tying that game up because the Lions came out, jumped on us pretty good. We ended up fighting back, tying the game up, took that game into overtime, and won that game at the end of overtime. So we played almost, 11 quarters, if not more, like almost 11 quarters in 4 days.
Whew.
Yeah. Well, not 11. Well, we played the two four quarters, and then, almost a full halftime period against Jacksonville and almost a full halftime period against the Lions. So that was a tough 4 day stretch. I will say that.
That's got to be absolutely exhausting. And is it worth it for the Thanksgiving Day game, or is it one of those we'd rather not have the spotlight on us if it's going to be that quick of a turnaround?
You know what? It worked out for us. We won. And we won both of those games. So we was able to get 2 wins in a short period of time. But I will say this right here. The Thanksgiving Day games really are only fun for the home teams. It's not very fun for the away team because I mean it's Thanksgiving. So, even if you play the 11:30 game against Detroit, the game's not going to be over with till 2:30, and the next thing you know, by the time you can get dressed, get to the airport, get out, this and this and that, you're gonna be 4:30, 5 o'clock leaving Detroit because it's gonna take you an hour 15 to get cleaned up and get media and packed and all that stuff after the game. So you're not leaving the facility until 4, probably at the earliest. Then you drive to the airport, get on the plane, go through security, all that stuff. So you're not getting out of Detroit before 5:15. And then, depending on where you got to fly to or where you got to go, you're not getting home till, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So Thanksgiving is the actual day is gone for the most part. But generally you have the rest of the weekend off. So you generally get that Friday off. You can enjoy some time with your family. You get the Saturday off, enjoy the weekends, and you can kind of have some Thanksgiving festivities and not have to worry about playing on Sunday because you've already played. So that's one of the perks. But it's really cool for the Detroit Lions because they start out with the parade. It's a big thing in the city, and then you get to play early. 11:30 game, you're done 2:30, so your family can come up, go to the game, and then you can get done and go home and enjoy Thanksgiving dinner and watch all the other games on. So that was one of the cool things about playing for the Lions and playing on Thanksgiving every year is we always had the early game. So that was always pretty cool.
And they will continue to have the early game, but we'll get to that later. We're going to be taking it game by game through the schedule. We'll kind of summarize the preseason real quick just because I know the players kind of want to get rid of it. They want it shortened. The fans want it shortened. So, Falcons, Colts, Steelers. Those are the three teams that the Lions will face in the preseason. Any big thoughts there, or just let's get to the season?
You know what? I don't ever want to be one of those guys to discount or discredit the preseason. You know what I'm saying? I think it's beneficial for veteran players to get out there and get a couple reps, get your feet wet, gotta kind of get a feel for the season and just playing again. I know a lot of vets don't like playing in the preseason, but I never mind getting a couple reps in, getting what I'm saying, getting out there and just getting back wet again, what I'm saying, getting your pads dirty a little bit, getting some full speed tackling and things like that, because a lot of times you don't get a lot of full speed tackling, in practice. Some teams do, some teams don't. Um, but then there's plenty of young guys that need those reps that you are dependent on to help you out during the season some way, either a defensive, offensive guy, special teams guy. You're counting on them to play a decent role for you throughout the season. So getting those guys as many reps as you can so that they can be prepared and ready to go in the preseason. I don't ever want to discount that. And then also you have some guys who are out there fighting for their lives, man. They're fighting for jobs and getting to play preseason games, put, film out there showing that they can play in this league, whether it be for the team that they're on currently or, they get released, but they get picked up by another team. I don't ever want to discredit that portion of it, even though, like I said, I never was really in that situation, but there's a lot of guys who are in that situation. And so I don't ever feel like, they should take the preseason away, because that just takes opportunities away, for those guys who need that. And so, you know, the coaches do a pretty good job of hopefully playing guys, in the preseason, saving guys, getting them ready to go. But that's really a good time for the young guys to get some more reps and give guys an opportunity to make the team. So I can't discredit the preseason. So I think the Falcons, be good for those guys to open up with. New quarterback, get Matt Ryan out of there. So, but then they'll see Matt Ryan, with the Colts, and that's the second preseason game, which a lot of teams probably use it as like kind of like the third preseason game where they'll play their guys probably a little more. So they get a good test against Matt Ryan and the Colts defense out there, and then finish up look like with the Steelers.
Yeah.
You know, Starters may play, may not play. I don't know, but Steelers look different. New quarterback out there as well. So I don't think they have anything too tough to worry about in the preseason. A couple solid teams that like they got 2 away games in the preseason. I don't know if they'll practice with one of those teams either. I know we practiced with Pittsburgh one year and we practiced with the Colts one year. So I don't know if they'll do that this year, but it's a solid preseason schedule. I say that.
How do the players feel about the joint practices with another team?
It varies.
Hmm.
Some players don't like it. Some players don't like it. Some players do, and it also depends on the atmosphere of the joint practice, right? So you go to some organizations and they may tackle full speed to the ground. So when you go do joint practices with them, they want to do the same thing. But if you don't tackle full speed to the ground, that's when you start getting fights, because this team is used to practicing where they thud and let the running backs run. This team is used to practicing where they take the guys to the ground. So then all of a sudden you get a guy come up and smack one of your guys in practice and take them to the ground. Now they're upset. So then a fight breaks out, right? Or they go and hit your quarterback and the fight break out, things like that. But you know, it just varies depending on who it is and how the week go. The practices are going to be more intense. They're fun to a degree. It's going to be, you're basically going through your same practices, just competing with the other team. When you do 7-on-7, you're doing it against them. When you do one-on-ones, you're doing it against other guys. When you do special teams, you're doing it against other guys. When you do offense and defense, you're doing it against other guys. When you're doing 2-minute drill and red zone and all those different things, you're just doing it against other guys. And the intensity is high, the speed is high, and it's good work. I will say that. It just at some point some veteran just might be like, man, I don't feel like doing all this with another team, because some guys be real extra. They be real extra. And so it just all depends on the team, where you at, how it's going. Are they coming to you or are you going to them? Is it inconvenient? They got you this. When you're at home, you got your own space, your own hot tubs, your own weight room. You're not getting on the bus every day, going to practice and ride. I mean, when we practiced against Pittsburgh, we had probably an hour drive every day to get to the practice facility. So just different things like that make the week long. But for the most part, I think it's okay. And I think players, to take away a preseason game, you get more of those joint practices where you can get some good reps. I mean, I think it's a good trade if they
That
had more of those.
That's what a lot of people have said is you kind of learn more in those practices than in the games. Not that you can eliminate the preseason games because you do need those live reps, but in terms of learning and teaching and being able to develop and figure out who's going to be on this roster, how do we make it? That's what a lot of people have reported is that maybe this is the way to go instead of the 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 I don't know if they'll cut any more from here, but that was the argument to cut down one from four.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's people fighting for jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it. Money wise, it may not make sense. Player wise, I don't really get into all that. When you got 3 games, they do it a certain way. 4 games, they do it a certain way. Like I said, I don't ever want to discredit those reps and the opportunity that the younger guys get to get more reps and to fight for jobs. And so, um, you know, 4 preseason games. I mean, the starters, most of those guys aren't doing anything the fourth preseason game anyway. They're not doing much in practice that week. It's kind of like an off week because, you know, it's a short turnaround for it used to be, because they used to try to have all those fourth preseason games done by like Thursday night because you had cut weekend. You know what I'm saying? So they wasn't playing games on Saturday, that last preseason game. You would play on, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday that week before, and then Thursday night, almost all the preseason games were wrapped up. So he wasn't doing much that last week, kind of resting, getting ready for the run. So I'm all for the preseason, man. Let the kids try to earn a spot.
Well, we're looking forward to talking about the preseason, breaking it down and seeing who shines, and then who makes the week 1 roster facing the Philadelphia Eagles. What are your thoughts on the Eagles this year? Because the Lions were stomped 44-6 last year against them. And do you have any fond memories against the Eagles?
My thoughts on the Eagles this year is, they added AJ Brown on the offensive side of the ball. They just signed Bradbury. You couple him with Slay. They should be pretty solid at the corners, and it's always fun. I know for Slay, who's one of my best friends, it's fun for him to go back to Detroit, a place where he played so many years and played great, and the fans love him. So that'll be a fun opening day for him to go back to Detroit. It'll be fun for the city. They'll be fired up. And it'd be a good test for the Lions to see, the difference in last year and this year. Like you said, they got beat pretty bad last year in Detroit, and so this is a good test for them to come out this year and see early on how they're gonna fare. And I think for me, the fondest memory that I have playing against the Eagles, it would have been 2013, the freaking Snow Bowl, the Ice Bowl. What I don't want to say Ice Bowl, but that really the Snow Bowl. It was awful in terms of snow. It was cold. It was fun. I guess in the first half, second half, it was cold. It was not fun. Obviously, we couldn't stop LaShawn McCoy in the second half either. That was I don't know if he put on some different cleats or something, but it was just different in the second half. And so that's probably by far one of the fondest memories. But I mean, I got to play against, and that time, I got to play. I was young in Houston. I got to play against Michael Vick, who was an electric quarterback, and Deshaun Jackson. Those guys were dynamic back in the day. So I got to play against those guys. They had Jeremy Maclin. That was fun. And then yeah, that's about it. But yeah, going to Philly and that snowball was that was uh that was a time.
That was quite the game. I think we all remember watching just those cuts Shady was making, the snow pouring down. What a game. And with Darius Slay returning to Detroit, is he going to be allowed to go out to eat after the game? Because I know he's talked about how when he comes back to Detroit, he loves to go out for food. Is that something that the team allows, or is it not get back to the bus?
Oh, well, after the game, no. Generally, you get there on Saturday, and you'll
Ah,
generally get there. Different teams do it differently, but coming from Philly, they'll probably get there to the city about 4 o'clock. 3:30, 4 o'clock. Get to the hotel, because the airport, and depending on where they're staying, especially if they're staying downtown, from the airport to downtown is not a long trip. Sometimes you get to certain cities and you got an hour drive on the airport to the hotel just because of the hotel you're staying at in comparison to where the airport is. But in Detroit, the airport to downtown, takes them 20 minutes to get there. So, they may land anywhere between 3:30, be at the hotel by 4:30, and depending on how they do it, night meetings may start about 7:30, 8 o'clock, or depending on the coach and their schedule. So that's most of the time when guys go out to eat, when they get there and they got the 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's dinner time. They go out to dinner and get back in time for night meetings. But generally after the game, you're on the bus and you're getting ready to head to the airport to fly back.
gotcha. So it's the night before that you get the food on. And so
hmm
where would you and Slay go if you only had 1 2 hour period to go get some food?
What you mean? If I was in Detroit,
Yeah.
where would we go, or like during our time together?
Either or.
Well, I never left the hotel. The only time I left the hotel, um, for like dinner and stuff would be the fourth preseason game, because most of the time I wasn't playing that game, and that was kind of like the end of training camp. The day before they cut down the roster, and you always have a bunch of DBs in training camp, and so four or five of those guys are going to be gone, and so it's kind of like your last time with that group, because like I said, you're going to play the fourth preseason game, and then guys are going to get cut the next day or the day after. So I would always go, if we had an away game, I would always go out to dinner. Um, that fourth preseason game. And outside of that, the only other time I think I went to dinner would have been one year. I think we played in Chicago the last game of the season. And I think we were already out of the playoffs. I think it was, matter of fact, it might have been 2016 or something like that. I think we were already out of the playoffs. Um, Might have been 15. Yeah, it might have been 15. Whenever I played my 100th game. Might have been 15. Yeah. 16, 32. Yeah. Would it been the end of 15? We were already out of the playoffs. And that was Rasheen's. I think that was Rasheen Mathis last year in Detroit. We had James Ahedibo that was going into his last year. So that was kind of that group's last kind of hoorah together as well. Um, And like I said, we were already out of the playoffs, so we were going out there to have fun. So I left and went to dinner that Saturday night. But outside of that, I generally didn't leave the hotel to go out to dinner the night before the game. I kind of just stayed in the hotels, went ate what they had for us, and just kind of chilled out. Um, but if we were going to leave, it's probably going to be some kind of steakhouse. Definitely going to be a steakhouse.
Good choice. Good choice. Good choice. And good behavior as well from Glover Quinn staying at the hotel. So, next game, another home game. Washington Commanders. Carson Wentz comes to town, and the Lions defensive backs will be hoping to feast.
Right. And, I think honestly, they will feast. I think they will feast on Carson Wentz. I don't really know who all he has at wide receiver. I haven't even looked at their roster, but I think he's been known to throw some interceptions in the past. I mean, it just is what it is, and I think Jeff coming back, being healthy, obviously having the money, you know, getting some pass rush from Aiden, the new Vamp defense, Tracy being signed and the pressure being off of him so he can just go out and play in the secondary, the draft pick, hopefully, he's out there at the safety position. So I think those guys on the defensive end will get some pressure on Carson Wentz, and he'll throw a couple of them up there. and they'll be able to turn them over and ultimately lead to a Lions victory.
Love to hear that. And did you have much experience? It wasn't the Commanders at the time, but did you play Washington during your career?
Yeah, I did. I did. I remember, when I was in Houston, we played Washington early in my career, and we actually went into overtime, or we were almost in overtime, I think, if I remember correctly. And that's when Washington had, I think, RG3. He may have been there. It may have been another quarterback. I can't remember. I know when I was in Detroit, they had RG3 and we played them. So when I was in Houston, they may have had a different quarterback. Um, They had what was that quarterback name? I can't remember what his name was, but they had a different quarterback. But we ended up beating them in overtime. I think you might have seen the iconic picture. They Andre Johnson. We threw a jump ball to Andre Johnson in the back corner. And he catches it over Reed Dowdy, I think is who it was. And Dowdy, the safety fell on the ground, and Andre kind of spiked the ball. And when he spiked it, they took a picture at the time with his arm kind of like coming through. And it's kind of like the same exact pose that like Muhammad Ali had on one of his knockouts. And so I see that picture from time to time of Andre Johnson spiking that ball after we won that game. But that was an incredible game that we had in Washington. And like I say, the times that we played them when I was in Detroit and we went to Washington, I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, we won most of those games. So I don't really remember losing much going to Washington, if I remember that correctly. And so, um, when they come to Detroit this year, I would expect it to be the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of players experience a lot of losses when they head to Washington, at least in modern history in the NFL. Week 3, the first road game. We assume the Lions will be 2-0 after victories versus the Eagles and the Commanders, and they head to Minnesota for the divisional game. What does it mean facing Minnesota in Minneapolis?
That's a fun place to play. I mean, one of the funnest games we had was we played in Minnesota, and I think Golden Tate catches the touchdown in overtime after Matt Prater kicks the deep field goal after Stafford hits Andre Roberts on the deep crossing route. That was just a crazy game that we had in Minnesota. Then we come back, I think, the next year, and we had another crazy game in Minnesota. I think I remember having a few crazy games in Minnesota in the new stadium, and it's just fun. It's a great environment, actually. Their fans are loud. They do the chant, the scold chant, and it's a fun place to play. The Vikings play really well at home. But the Lions have always played well, at least that I can remember. They've played well in the new Vikings stadium, and so that game to me will depend a lot on how the season starts. You know what I'm saying? If they come out and they're 2-0 against their first two games, I think they'll go to Minnesota with a lot of momentum, and I think they'll get a win. If they come out and they're 0-2, I think they're going to be scratching and clawing to get that win against Minnesota, and I think they'll get it. I think they'll get it. Um, It'll be tough because they'll be, in a situation where you don't want to start out 0-3 with three NFC losses plus one divisional loss, right? You don't want to start out like that. So if they don't win those first two games, they're going to be in the must win against Minnesota. And if they win those first two games, I think, they'll be riding pretty high and they'll go in Minnesota to take that first step of winning, their first divisional game. So I'm gonna give them the win against Minnesota.
3-0 for the Detroit Lions in 2022 as they head to a matchup in week 4 versus the Seattle Seahawks in Detroit. Drew Lock or Geno Smith is the quarterback now in Seattle, unless they trade for Baker Mayfield, but we don't know about that. Pete Carroll comes to Detroit. Your former teammate Quandre Diggs returns home. What are your thoughts on this game and the Seattle Seahawks in general?
I mean, I think Seattle's in a tough situation. It's hard to win in this league without a quarterback. It just is what it is. And getting rid of Russell Wilson, haven't made the trade for Baker yet, which is, if they're going to make that trade, this is the time to try to get him in there. It's the off season, it's OTAs, you're getting ready for, mini camps and training camps. This is the time to get him in there. You make that trade later on, and now he's behind the eight ball. So if they don't have a quarterback that's going to put, and you lost your defensive leader in Bobby Wagner, yeah, they got Quandre and signed him back, and Quandre is one of my dear friends, and so I'm super happy for him. But not having your leader right there in the middle and Bobby, losing your offensive guy and Russell, you know, it could be a tough year for Seattle. It could be a real tough year for Seattle because they've enjoyed so much success throughout their tenure, and you know, they have some personalities on that team, to say the least. And when they're playing well and they're doing well, they're gonna be fun to watch. And when they're not playing well and things are not going their way, things may get a little chippy out there for them guys. So be interesting to see how they start out, but it's tough when you don't have a super solid quarterback. So we'll have to see how Geno plays. We'll have to see how Drew plays and what they're asking those guys to do. But it could possibly be a tough year for Seattle. So if the lines are rolling, at home, they you know, I I could like the lines in that game. I could like the lines in that game. I just, I don't want to get, the last time I did a schedule prediction and just a schedule walkthrough, it didn't turn out good for the Lions. It was 2015, I think, and we started out 1-7, something like that, and we ended up like 7-9. And I actually had us going 11-5 that year if we played the way we were supposed to play. Obviously, we didn't play well, so I'm kind of scared, but I feel like the Lions could win that game. I feel like if the Lions come out and play well, having 3 of the first 4 games at home and, that divisional game on the road in Minnesota, which they've played typically well in the past, they could be a 4-0 football team after the first 4 games.
They very well could be. And when you look at the schedule, there's a lot of teams that the Lions can hang with if things, not even if things go their way, just there's a lot of teams that the Lions can hang with at the very least. And when it comes to Seattle, I think that they can beat this version of the Seahawks. So possibly 4-0 heading in to Gillette Stadium and the New England Patriots. I know you played for a Bill Belichick disciple in Matt Patricia, who might be calling plays this year. It's unannounced who the OC is. It could be Patricia, could be Joe Judge, could be Belichick himself. What are your thoughts on this whole situation in New England?
Well, I don't really know a lot about the situation in New England. I know, Coach Patricia is there. And the thing about Coach Patricia, he has succeeded and had good runs as a D coordinator in New England. He didn't have a great run as a head coach in Detroit, but being a head coach and being a defensive coordinator are two different things. And so just because he's a D coordinator and I didn't have a great experience with him, I don't feel like he's a bad defensive coordinator. I don't know who's going to be calling plays, and the Lions have turned their roster over, since, Coach Patricia was there. And I think, the staff, at least the scouting and some of the people that were still there with Patricia, they're going to have a good understanding of what he likes to do defensively. He don't blitz a whole lot. He's gonna, walk up in certain places, play a lot of man coverage, double team certain guys, try to, make this guy beat you. He's gonna lean the safety certain places. They're gonna know some of those things, and maybe they can take advantage of that. With hopefully Jameson is back by then and he's playing. TJ underneath. They should have some weapons to be able to attack those guys in man-to-man coverage and put a lot of pressure on them offensively. And the defense stacks up really well, man. They should be able to match up and play with anybody. And if they can do that, I think they can. It's always tough to go into Gillette and get a win. That's a tough place to play. So, given the circumstances, if I had to, I I would give New England the edge. You know, it's just hard to start out 5-0 as well. So I just you
It's
got to find one, and I would say that's one that I could say okay, maybe they tackle one in New England.
it's hard to start 5-0 and it's hard to win in New England, so I completely understand the sentiment. It's hard to beat Bill Belichick in general. Do you have many experiences playing in Gillette? And did you ever have to play there late in the year? Because I've heard
Yeah.
late season Gillette is just a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, I've played there several times, especially when I was in Houston. We played there when I was in Detroit. I think my 2014. I think that year we went up there and we had really good defense, and Tom Brady and them they ended up beating us that game. I remember being in Houston playing them several times, played them in the playoffs, played them on a Monday night game late in the season, and then went up there again. Um, think it might have been, was it the playoffs? Yeah, I think it was the playoffs. Went to New England again and lost. So I've definitely been to Gillette several times, and I don't think I've ever won up there. So that's my take on it.
We said that people get used to winning in Washington. They also get used to losing in New England. So completely understandable. Lions roll into the bye week, week 6. Seems a little bit early in the season. What's Glover Quinn's ideal bye week?
Well, yeah, I did bye week for us when I was in Detroit. The ideal bye week was week 9. That was the ideal bye week for us, because it gives you an opportunity to come out and play 8 straight, right? And so if you do come out on fire and you're rolling really good, you want to keep playing. You know what I'm saying? You want to keep playing, you want to ride it, and maybe you can reel off 8 straight wins and put yourself in great position to make the playoffs and win your division, right? And then you get a break because we always had the Thanksgiving Day game that came around week 12 or something like that, week 13. So you get that break week 9 for the bye week, then you come back and you play 2 or 3 games, and then you get the Thanksgiving game, you get another kind of mini bye week in there. Um, and so that was always, what I used to love. And, it actually worked out for us like that a couple of years when I was in Detroit. We always had like week 8, week 9. I think, the year we went to London, we played the Falcons week 8 in London. So week 9 would have been our bye week. I think the next year we came back and we played Kansas City over there. Probably played them like week 9 or week 7 or something like that. So it would have been the same thing having that week 8, week 9 bye week. That always worked out good for us, like I said, because we knew we had the Thanksgiving Day game coming up around week 12, week 13, somewhere in there. So to get that break, before that, you don't want the bye week, week 11. And then you got to come right back and, play the Thanksgiving game and then get another kind of mini bye. Kind of want to mix it up so you can get a little rest, a little break throughout the season.
And after that bye week, the Lions will head on down to Jerry World, take on the Dallas Cowboys. What are your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys based on the current team and your experiences against them?
Well, obviously with Detroit, we don't have a great experience with the Cowboys.
That's
Obviously,
what I
you
thought.
know, not a huge Cowboys fan. We'll
Hmm.
put that out there. But you have to respect those guys, what they've been able to do with Zeke and Dak, and those guys have played well. Trayvon Diggs had a phenomenal year last year, on the defensive side of the ball. So those guys got playmakers. It's a fun place to play in that stadium, in that city, that environment. It's Jerry's World, it's a big stage, it's the Dallas Cowboys, and so long as you don't get caught up in the hoopla and things about that, and just go out there and play ball. You can go in there and get a win. I think, like I said, if I gotta just be realistic with the schedule, I probably would say that'll be another tough game for the Lions. Coming off the bye week, you feel like you'll be rested and things like that. But sometimes when you got to travel coming off the bye week, you kind of get off. Sometimes you get off to a slow start, depending. Um, I don't think they can afford to get off to a slow start in Dallas because it'll be rocking in Dallas, and those guys can feel that momentum and turn it on pretty quickly. Um, so that'll be a tough 2 game stretch, I think, for the Lions, and I think that'll be a crucial stretch for their season because if they don't start out 5-0 or 4-0, right, then you still got those 2 tough games right there, going to New England and going to Dallas, right? So if they don't start out on fire, winning, some of those first 4 games that are at home, that stretch right there could put you in a tough situation, and to where you have to go on the road and win 2 tough games in 2 tough environments. So that could be a tough stretch.
Really think those first 7 weeks will set the stage for the Lions with that first block of games at home, the matchup with the Vikings, the Cowboys, the Patriots. That will set the stage for the rest of the season, especially because in week 8, we get a Miami Dolphins team that is very much in transition. They added Tyreek Hill. They've got a new head coach. Tua Tagovailoa is still trying to find himself. So we don't know who this Dolphins team really is as they come into Detroit. What are your thoughts on Miami this year and in your time facing Miami?
Well, I mean, like you said all the things about Miami. Yeah, you try to create a splash with Tyreek Hill. You never know how Tua is going to be. That's the thing about playing wide receiver. It doesn't matter how dynamic you are; they got to get you the ball. And if they can't get you the ball, then you know, but it's really no benefit. I don't really know a lot about what Miami's trying to do. I think, like you said, they're in a situation down there where, I think they're hoping and wishing, hoping that things work out and they have a good year, and then wishing things work out and have a good year. But I don't think that they're really I don't know. It's just so weird with what's going on down in Miami. New head coach. Like I said, you signed Tyreek, who was a deep ball type guy, right? Deep ball, home run threat type guy. Tua is not that type of quarterback to me. He's not that deep ball gunslinger type of guy that Tyreek Hill needs, that he's, had tremendous success with Patrick Mahomes. He benefited, although he's a really, really, really good football player, you benefit from a guy like Patrick Mahomes that can sling the ball all over the field and allow you to play basically street ball or whatever, because you are fast. That benefits you. Tua is not that type of quarterback that I've seen. He's more of an on time possession type quarterback. Yeah, he'll try to throw the deep ball here and there, but he's more of, on time possession type quarterback, make, good reads. And I don't know if that benefits Tyreek Hill because he's such a fast guy. He needs to be able to take the defense up top. So we'll see how that work out. I think the Lions will do enough to beat the Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins could end up being a paper tiger this year, and it would be nice to get a win over Miami heading into a home matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Now, I know you're probably not the biggest fan of the Packers. I know none of us Lions fans are. What are your thoughts on Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, and just everything about this rivalry?
Well, I think if you look back at the numbers, I think my time in Detroit, I think we had a winning record against Green Bay. At least
I
I know
think
at
you might
home we
have.
did. We went to Lambeau and won several times. I remember winning one, two. I remember winning three for sure in Lambeau. Three for sure we won. And then I remember winning one, two. I remember winning two or three for sure at home. So I think we were over 500 against Green Bay. My time there, but they're tough, right? Aaron Rodgers is going to be tough. Um, we see what type of wide receiver core He's going to have. He drafted a young guy. Obviously they got rid of Devontae Adams, so that's a big thing for huge relief for the secondary. But Aaron Rodgers is going to always be tough. He's getting a little older, so he's probably not as mobile as he used to be, but he still can throw it. He's still phenomenal player. And it's always been a tough game, but it's going to be at home. And I think the Lions always play well against their divisional opponents at home. And so I would expect the Lions to come out and play that game well. And, coming off a tough road stretch, come back home, get a win against the Miami Dolphins, take that momentum right into Green Bay and get another division win. So I got the Lions winning that one early against Green Bay.
Well, and if you look at it, the Lions won their last matchup against the Packers 37-30.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was in week 18, but it's still a W. And I think that the Lions can get a W in Soldier Field against the
Yes.
Chicago Bears in week 10.
No question. I truly believe that. Yeah, I think Chicago they're in a little trouble as well, and I think the Lions will get that game. I like the Lions in Soldier Field, and it's not. Hopefully, it won't be that cold. It's early November. You should get a good temperature day. It may not be hot, but hopefully it's not freezing in Chicago early November. So they should be fine.
Did you like playing in Soldier Field? Because I know a lot of people have said it's an old, outdated stadium.
Well, I mean, I liked it. You know, um, I mean, I think for players, I don't know if we really get caught up or worry about old, outdated stadiums because for us, it's really just the field. We don't really care about the concessions and you know what I'm saying, the things that make the fan experience super great. Long as the field is good or whatever, then that's all we really care about. The locker rooms, you don't expect really great locker rooms on the road anyway, so they're just normal. Some of your better stadiums have better home locker room, I mean away locker rooms, but not anything spectacular for the most part. So as players, you understand what the grass and what the turf is going to feel like when you go to Chicago. You're probably going to need your long studs because, their grass is a little slick and it's a little different. And you get up there in the winter time and it could be a tough place to play. But for the most part, I like playing in Chicago. I liked green grass. I definitely liked it earlier in the season. Noon games because I just love playing uh, on grass in the sun midday. You know what I'm saying? So I had a good time going to Chicago.
And hopefully the Lions have a good time in Chicago.
Made a
And
lot of plays in Chicago too.
yes, you sure did. Picked off Jay Cutler once or twice, if I remember.
Oh yeah.
And then the Lions will head to the New York, the Big
Win.
Apple.
Dub.
That's a win.
Dub.
Yeah, the
Dub.
Giants are the
Dub.
Giants.
Yeah, they're the Giants. That'll be fun though. Kenny Galladay, if he can be healthy to play, I'm sure he'll be fired up to play against the Lions. Even though a lot of those guys, probably wasn't even there when he was there. Still, just a fun thing to do. But I don't see the Giants winning that game.
So the Lions are now 8-2 heading into Thanksgiving against the Buffalo Bills. That's a tough matchup.
That's tough.
That is prime time television.
That's tough. That's a tough one. That's a tough one because the Lions play really well on Thanksgiving. And the thing about the Bills is the Bills, they generally play on Thanksgiving as well. They may play the middle game on Thanksgiving or the night game, but the Bills kind of play on Thanksgiving as well too. So playing on Thanksgiving won't be new for them, and it'll probably actually be cool for them because it is a short flight to Buffalo. So for them to be able to play that early game and get back home on Thanksgiving, with that offense and their defense and the quarterback and that'll be a tough game. That'll be a tough game. But the Lions do play well on Thanksgiving. They really do play well on Thanksgiving. But it's hard to pick against Buffalo in that game. But we have to see how it's going. Um, but as of right now, I think I'm gonna ride with the Lions. It's Thanksgiving.
Ooh,
They're gonna show up on Thanksgiving. They're gonna show up.
love to hear that. The Lions beating Josh Allen on Thanksgiving would be historic.
Oh yeah,
And then it's a matchup against the Jaguars in week 13.
yeah. That's dub. Home
That's what I
game.
expected.
Home game against Jacksonville. That's a dub.
Was it always like that?
You know, when I first got in the league, Jacksonville was tough. They had David Garrard at the quarterback and um, Maurice Jones-Drew at the running back. They had guys that were tough. The defense was tough. But their offense kind of got dated, and they couldn't throw the ball, so you can do things to stop the run. And they've always tried to play good defense, but most of the time when you play Jacksonville, you're expecting to get the win. They've been struggling to find a quarterback. Ever since then I think they drafted Blaine Gabbert
And
early in the
Blake
draft, and that set them
Bortles.
back. And then they've had Blake Bortles, and now they got Trevor Lawrence, and coming off the Urban Meyer stuff. Like there's a lot going on in Jacksonville. So unless I see something different early in the season, I think the Lions should get that one.
So W over the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I assume we're sweeping the Vikings, getting another W this time at home.
I will say this: the Vikings always play the Lions tough at home as well. So that one's up in the air. That one's up in the air. Lions coming off of Bills, Jacksonville. Ooh. I think I'm gonna get a Vikings that one. I think I'm gonna get a Vikings that one.
That's fair. It's
That's
tough to
tough.
sweep. It's tough to sweep your
Right.
division
It's
rivals.
tough. It's tough. I'm gonna get a Vikings that one.
And thankfully, it'll be a little bit easier the next week because they're back in New York against a Jets team that, like the Dolphins, is trying to find themselves, but doing a worse job at it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the next few weeks, the Jets, the Panthers, they should be able to take both of those guys. Going to the Jets, you're getting into the weather games, December, 18th. You're getting in the holiday season, getting into the weather. So when you get to that point, it's really all about where you at in the season. You know what I'm saying? If the Jets are in playoff contention and they're playing meaningful games, it obviously makes it tougher. If the Lions are in the same situation, that obviously makes it a better game. If both teams are out of playoff contention, it's kind of just like, all right, what are we doing for Christmas? If one team is, there, another team isn't, then that team is obviously probably trying to play and get that win. So that game right there, just based off of the looking at it on paper, you got to feel like the Lions can go into the Jets and get a win. There's it's going to take the Jets another year or two to get back. I love Robert Saleh and some of the guys out there on that coaching staff, but I think it's going to take the Jets a little bit longer. Same thing with Carolina. I think it's going to take them a little bit as well. So the Lions, if they can win that game against Minnesota December 11th, then they could go on a good little 4-game win streak right there with Minnesota, the Jets, the Panthers, and then at home against the Bears on New Year's Day.
And at home against the Bears on New Year's Day. That's a W. I know it's hard to sweep your division rivals, but the Lions are sweeping the Bears.
Yeah. And like I said, once you get into that last quarter of the season, a lot of the games just really depends on who's still in it and who's not. Who's healthy, who's not. Whose quarterback is still playing, who's not. That's what those games, generally depend on. And so, like I said, as of now, when you just got things on paper, you just got to feel like the Lions will win that game late in the season. um, against Chicago to sweep the Bears, in the division.
Well, that means the Lions are now 13-3 heading into a matchup at Lambeau Field week 18. And if the Lions are 13-3, this might be for the NFC North.
No question. Could be. I think the thing that will benefit the Lions is the way they do the scheduling. So the Lions, I think, finished last in the NFC North last year. So they're actually playing last place schedule. So when you look at the games against the Panthers and the game against the Giants, those teams finished last place. Well, they're actually playing the NFC East this year. So it wouldn't be the Giants, it would be the Cowboys, I
I think
think.
the Seahawks would be the last
The
place team
Seahawks.
in the West,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, the Seahawks, right? The Seahawks ended up bad last year, as did the Panthers, right? So the Seahawks didn't do a lot to get much better. The Panthers are going to kind of be in the same boat. So those games are a little favorable for the Lions, whereas Green Bay is going to be playing the first place schedule, right? So they're probably going to play. Um, if you look at the Panthers division, they're probably going to play who won that division? Tampa,
Yep.
right? You got the Green Bay Tampa matchup that they've already been talking about, and then you look at the other division is going to be the Rams, right? The Rams won that division, so Green Bay is going to have those two tough games. So those games are going to be tough for Green Bay. Whereas the Lions, if they're good, they're going to have the Seahawks and they're going to have the Panthers. Should be able to get 2 wins right there. So the Lions could be in a real good position going into that last game. In Green Bay, you know, maybe tough for those guys to get 13 wins. That's a lot of wins. Like I said, you can never count out Aaron Rodgers, but that's a lot.
So let's call it 14-3. Detroit Lions win the NFC North.
And I will throw this disclaimer out there. Because I hate to do this because, like I said, when I did this a couple years ago, it was not good for the Detroit Lions. A lot of this is just based off paper. Obviously, the game isn't played on paper. This is just based off of talk and what these teams done in the offseason, how they're playing, how they're feeling going into the season, and kind of how you hope it plays out, right? You feel like if certain teams play, if the Lions play as good as they can play and the Jets play as good as they can play, you feel like the Lions should have more talent to be able to win that game. And so that's how these picks are formulated. I'm not guaranteeing that the Lions are going to go 14-3. I don't want my Lions fans to jump on me if we don't. But if the Lions play well, stay healthy, they should definitely have a 9, 10, 11 win season and hopefully find themselves in the playoffs. We can say that.
And that's exactly what I was hoping we would find in this exercise is no, we're not guaranteeing 14 wins for the Lions, but you see that it's possible now.
It's possible.
And the fact that it's possible just speaks to how far this Detroit Lions team has come from last year. And
Right. I mean, and you look at last year, they played well in a lot of games. They played really well in a lot of games, lost some late in the game, either offensively or defensively, but they were in those games late. And so when you add a couple pieces on the defensive side, you add Aiden Hutchinson, you add Jameson on the offensive side, you get another year into the system, another year with Coach Campbell, another year with Coach AG. Like, I mean, those guys were right there in a lot of games last year. And so you hope having another year of experience, having another year in the system, you hope they could win some of those close games. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, the difference in these records are really a couple plays. The difference in 9-7 and 7-9 is really about 2 or 3 plays. And it's the same way the difference in 6-10 and 10-6. It's really about 4 or 5 plays throughout the course of the season that puts you from being 10-6 to 6-10. Well, they play 17 game now, so it's just that close. I remember in 2017, I think we ended up 9-7, right? But you look at the game we played against Atlanta, and Golden Tate's get tackled at the half-inch line. You think it's a touchdown. They call it not a touchdown by reviewing it. Well, it's a 10-second runoff. We lose that game. Like, you're a half an inch from being 10-6. That's that's a difference, right? Just a half of inch, one play from being 10-6, right? You look at the year, might have been the same year. Was that the year we played Seattle? No, it was 15. We played Seattle in Seattle, and they had to punch out play against Calvin Johnson, right? Like, you look at that play, you look at the Hail Mary play against Green Bay. Like, we go 7-9. Those two plays, we're a 9-7 football team. And you're in the playoffs. We were one game from the playoffs that year almost anyway, right? You win some of those games, then you don't go to St. Louis and lose that game against the Rams, right? So we were 7-9. You could have easily been 10-6 ball club, but 2 or 3 plays here or there. So the difference is very, 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 very slim. And so the Lions, hopefully some of those close games that they had last year, they can come out on the other end, the other side of those games this year with the pieces that they've added and the excitement going into this season. I think these guys are going to be hungry. I think Coach Campbell is going to, lead those guys. Coach Aaron's going to lead those guys. And hopefully they can get off to a good start and keep that momentum rolling.
Let's hope and let's wait and see. And I cannot wait for this season to happen because it's a great time to be a Detroit Lions fan. Glover, any pluggables to plug before we head out here?
Oh, man, that's about it. Same as always right now. I'm in the grind of baseball season, making some time for the Believe podcast. That's going to be awesome this year. I can't wait to have a year to talk about the team and the season. And, I've never done this. I've never, had to watch games on Sunday to talk about the headlines, to talk about what's going on. So if you want to follow and be a part of some great, season NFL talk, you might want to listen to this podcast. It's gonna be fire this year, this summer, training camp. All those things are gonna be amazing. And like always, the dirt bags are popping.
The dirt bags are popping. Go dirt bags. Hit that subscribe button on the Believe in Lions podcast. And until then, we will see you next time.